What's up, YouTube? Frank from TGS Trades here, joined by Faisal and Imran Khan. And what did you guys do this last weekend?
We won YCS Dallas 2017 with Spyrals, playing the exact same list card for card, including main, extra, and side.
Now, you said we won. Here's one trophy. How did you guys win? What happened? What was the scenario?
We were playing each other in the finals.
What? That's pretty awesome. That's a world first and a premier event that brothers played each other. There were how many people at this event total? 11?
1100.
Over 1,100, and the two brothers played against each other. Also, the only two team members we sent to this that went to this event. That's pretty crazy. You guys definitely defied the odds. But did you guys enjoy this format? Is Spyral fun?
Yeah, it's fun. There's a lot you can do building the deck and like increasing your odds of having an advantage in the mirror.
Okay. Did you enjoy it, Imran?
I did enjoy it quite a bit. It was fun playing it. It's a different type of deck for Yu-Gi-Oh! So it was different in terms of playing it.
All right. Well, let's see this amazing deck profile that you guys worked so hard on.
First off, we have 3 Spiral Quick Fix. This card is basically the centerpiece of all your combos. If you have it and your opponent doesn't, you're winning.
Quick Fix is the card you want the most out of your monsters in the main deck. If your opponent has a hand trap, this usually plays around the hand trap the best, and you're able to grab the gear for the correct situation. It's the best card you want when you do brick.
All right.
3 Spiral Gear Drone. In my opinion, the reason why Spyral is so impressive and dominating the format right now, the fact that you can make a board and on top of that basically ensure that whatever card your opponent draws isn't going to help them at all is absurd.
Drone is a card that lets you stack your opponent's deck to ensure that they do not have the out or draw the out to whatever your board is or whatever your field is or whatever your hand is. It's also really good when you break because you can also make your opponent break, which also means that you can make decks like Dinos break. So this is why Spirals are really dominating right now, because the other decks which are less consistent can break a lot more because of Drone.
3 Super Agent. We know a lot of people were playing 2, but we decided to play 3 because getting this card on board is really important to getting the Spiral Double Helix, which is all of your plays. Drawing this card is extremely important because while many games are won and lost just by blind calling him correctly or incorrectly, not having him means that you wouldn't have had a chance to begin with.
Super Agent is your essential piece. Even when you get cherries, you can use this card to continue your quick fix combos and create a good enough board. When you don't have Super Agent or Double Helix access, a lot of the time you won't have Sleeper access either, but you do need to have some type of interaction on your opponent's turn, and having Quick Fix and Agent will allow you to do that.
The last Spiral monsters, 1 Last Resort, 1 Master Plan, and 1 Sleeper. Last Resort's like, there's an OTK with it going second, and it combos with your Sleeper to just continue clearing your opponent's board. Master Plan gives you 3 searches in 1 card, which is insane. It's a centerpiece to a lot of your combos, and Sleeper's kind of like the boss monster.
Sleeper, Master Plan are cards that you do not want to draw, but you want to search. In some cases, Sleeper is a card you want to draw, but Master Plan definitely not. Resort is a card that you generally can draw and be okay with, but you want to see your Super Agent, your Quick Fix, and you draw a lot more than these cards. But these are cards you search and you manipulate in order to gain advantage or to interact with your opponent.
Are you guys pretty set on the amount of Spiral monsters you're playing?
Definitely. I think that playing more will just reduce the consistency of the deck.
Right, 12 is the correct amount of Spirals you should play. There's not more or less. Last Resort is a card that is debatable to go up in the number of it being played, but I'm not sure if it would be correct to bump it up, but you should definitely be playing one of it.
Okay, sounds good.
For hand traps, we've got 3 Ash, 3 Droll, 2 Ghost Ogre, and Maxi. Droll, Ash, and Maxi are basically staples this format. You need to be playing them regardless of what you're playing. They're just extremely good against the entire field. Ghost Ogre was the last minute decision we made because a lot of people were playing set rotation, which means that if they're going to their resort through set rotation, then ogring it means that they also are unable to activate more Spyral resorts for the rest of the turn. Also, if your opponent uses Sleeper's effect by without having Last Resort equipped and you ogre it, you blow up their entire board.
Yes, that did happen to me in the top 4 match. In the end phase, my opponent decided to use Sleeper's effect without Last Resort equipped because it was already used. He could not search it from his deck, and I was able to use Ogre to blow up his board to take that game. As for Droll, Droll is a very good card, possibly the best hand trap outside of Maxi. Maxi is obvious, but do note that if your opponent does Maxi you can't kill them. You just have to see through it. Same with Ash. A lot of these hand traps can be played through. You just have to know how to do it for that situation.
So none of these steal the game.
Essentially,
as
yes.
much as like Maxi versus Zoo, people felt like if they got Maxi'd, they felt like they lost.
Right, you can't kill people with Spirals, which is a good thing. That reduces the impact of Maxi. That doesn't mean Maxi is healthy for the game. It just means that it might be less impactful than it was in previous formats.
That being said, I did lose to my brother in the finals because of Maxi.
Right.
Important to know.
For a field spell engine, we just played Spyral Resort and Terraformings. The reason we opted not to play set rotation is because as more people are playing set rotation, the weaker the card gets essentially, because if your opponent resolved the set rotation and you have one in your hand, yours is essentially dead. And being more dependent on field spells while everyone is playing set rotation makes you also more vulnerable to the lock itself. So I guess I would say that if maybe no one was playing set rotation at the start of this event, then maybe I would be playing it. I'm not sure. But that's how we viewed it.
Set rotation is a card that nets you a lot of advantage, comes at a price, can provide a lot, but the lock is quite weak as there are inherent outs to it in the deck. You should be playing 3 Terraforming and 3 Resort. You do need to see the consistency here for it.
3 Machine Duplication, we felt this was the best extender as opposed to Double Summon, because while we do play Double Summon, this is definitely stronger because in addition to comboing with Quick Fix, this is also a 2-card combo with Drone. It's currently the card that we can play in the deck that has the most 2-card combos, so it ends up being the most consistent extender.
Machine Duplication is also your way to go second against a large board of Spirals. So this card will allow you to play through your opponent's turn 1 boards quite well, as long as you have Resort. In some cases, you can bait their Sleeper and other interactive effects and use Machine Duplication to make your own board. So generally, this is a healthy card for me as I look at the format.
Next we have 2 Big Red. A lot of people chose to play 1, but honestly, this card is Premature Burial with no restrictions. In a format where your opponent is going to have a 75% to 80% chance of having a hand trap to interrupt your turn 1 play, you want to be activating this card as many turns as possible to be able to extend your plays, and having multiples helps you grind your opponent out.
This card is an additional extender. You want to draw this card in a lot of situations. That's why we decided to play 2. Also, the cannot be destroyed by battle effect is relevant in this deck and in the mirror. Same with last resort's effect of protection. You may not think of these as a very big deal, but when you combine it with something like a resort, it can become a formidable force.
Right, your opponent gets to a point where they can't do anything.
It becomes hard to deal with so many cards. They can fall apart, but it's hard to deal with so many cards at once.
Next, for the one-off spells, we've got 1-for-1. Foolish Burial. These are basically staples. This gets you access to Quick Fix. So if you have any way to get Agent, which we're maximizing our ways to access, you can start doing a double Helix play. 1-for-1 just gets you to Quick Fix without using your normal summon, which is absolutely insane.
1-for-1 is amazing. It's limited for a reason. They both perform a similar type of action, except for 1-for-1 with a monster is possibly the only semi one-card combo, because you're able to summon Quick Fix at Big Red and summon back the monster you discarded to make Helix. 1-for-1 is probably my favorite spell in this deck. It's very good. Same with Foolish. It gets you to your Quick Fix.
We play 1 Rhoda. A lot of people didn't play 3 Super Agent, let alone the Rhoda, but as we stated earlier, we want to have Super Agent in our hand as much as possible. If our graveyard is not set up, then the highest odds we have of getting a double Helix on board is to call Super Agent, right? And having the opportunity is definitely better than not being able to have a chance of summoning double Helix whatsoever.
Right. More so than not, you definitely want your double Helix in your hand. Even if you have multiples, you can try to special summon one, summon a double Helix. I do not see why you wouldn't want as many double Helix as you want in your deck. You want as many as possible. There's also combos with Firewall to summon double Helixes and then make Reinforce. So you definitely want a lot of double Helixes in your hand. I'm sorry, it's Super Agents.
You're good.
1 double summon. We decided to only play 1 because it doesn't combo with as many cards as Machine Dupe, since it doesn't interact with Drone very well. It's still good when you draw like Agent Last Resort or like Drone Last Resort, and it still works with Quick Fix, so it definitely did come in clutch.
A lot of people decided to play the Solemn Engine, including Scolding, Warning, and Strike, and this is the best punish for those cards, and Ogre. So this card was quite good for both of us this weekend.
1 Regeki. Currently, while the Spyral boards are strong, they don't establish any hard negates, so Regeki does clear a fair amount of things. And our main worry was also Baguska, and that Pen Magicians can make Baguska extremely consistently, and that card can definitely like completely ruin your day. So Regeki's a really good way to out that.
A lot of people also played around evenly matched. They did not play around board wipes, so this was a lot more impactful than it should have been this weekend.
1 Soul Charge. This card sucks. I was in the first half of the tournament, I was siding it out going first. By the second half of the tournament, I saw myself siding it out completely. I think that it would be slightly better if we had played Gofu maybe, because you can still use Gofu to summon Link Spider and Proxy Dragon, send those to the grave for a Link 3, then revive those at least. But yeah, I think I would just play something like Upstart Goblin instead.
Soul Charge is a card that can be really powerful, but I did not have an opportunity to reutilize it this weekend.
1 Spyral Mission Rescue. You only want to play 1, you don't want to draw multiples. The combos with multiples are really all just overextending, really. You don't need to play that much in, and the more you go in, the harder you could be losing to something like evenly matched. And you're just wasting resources at that point.
Rescue is a card that also adds back Sleepo, which is relevant. There are a few OTK combos with this, and you definitely want to play at least one of this card. You should actually only ever be playing one of this card.
And the last card in the main deck, 1 Spiral Gear Utility Wire. I was actually keeping this card going, even going second towards the second half of the tournament because I'm mathematically likely to have a hand trap to interrupt my opponent's play, which means that on my subsequent turn, they're likely to have a hand trap to interrupt my play. So being able to have this set while my opponent, ashes my double helix was really strong.
Utility Wire is also an out to barrel load dragon because monsters cannot target it, but spells and traps can.
I've heard good things about that card.
Right. We'll go into that into the extra deck.
Time for the extra deck. We're going to start with 3 Spyral Double Helix. Playing 3 was definitely the correct decision. I went up to 3 a lot. Again, as I said, your opponent is likely to have a hand trap, way more likely than they aren't. So you're often not going to be resolving him, and he's going to be sitting there, and he's often going to die, and you're going to want to summon more and grind through with him in the mirror. And as I said with the hand traps thing, I actually only resolved the full firewall play once this entire weekend.
Alright.
Double Helix is a card you want to resolve as much as possible. You want to keep this card on board and you want to keep it alive, but you definitely want to play 3.
Yeah, it seems it's like your deck's main combo card. Why would you not want to maximize on it, right?
One Proxy Dragon is just a generic link 2, goes into all the plays.
Proxy Dragon is a card that you can use as a combo piece, generally not used for its effect.
One Ib. Ib is mainly goes in the final combo where you make it next to Firewall and Baguska so you can protect them from board wipes.
Ib, generally what Faisal said about this, there isn't much more to talk about.
Did those links come up a lot this weekend for you guys?
Just a couple times.
Just a couple.
Ib came up a lot more than Proxy did.
Decode Talker. This is probably the card I made in the extra the most, besides Spiral Double Helix. There's a very simple 2-card OTK with him that involves Spiral Gear Drone and Spiral Super Agent, which is the most common combo you're going to be doing in this deck.
Decode is probably the most common link summon of mine, except for Double Helix, so this card should be played for sure in this deck.
One Guy Saber, the Lightning Shadow. He's just a generic link 3. He's mainly good because he points down and sideways, so he can work better with Firewall than Decode does.
Gaia Saber is a generic link 3 that you can make to either extend your combos or go into Firewall or whatever you need to extend into. He also has a good amount of attack, which can be relevant in some cases.
Next, Ningirsu. He is extremely good removal because he's non-targeting, non-destroying. He's a little frustrating to make right now because we don't have Link Karibo, so you have to use 2 Link 2s to make him. But he is pretty effective, and he does get you there when you need him to be.
This card is your out to a lot of things that the deck cannot naturally out, including a monster equipped with sleep, equipped with Last Resort. So you do use this card a lot.
2 Firewall. This is mainly for the combos. Usually only go into 1. 2 is kind of a safety net. Again, everyone was hand trapping the shit out of me this weekend, so I could only end up actually doing a Firewall combo once.
Fun fact, I don't believe I summoned this card this entire tournament. I did make Borolo Dragon, which we'll go into soon.
Wait, so you're saying it's a card you want to play, but you're probably not going to in the...
You will probably go into it. It was unfortunate that I could not.
Fair enough.
One Borolo Dragon. We made this a lot more than Firewall Dragon because he's more reactive, and he steals your opponent's stuff. I had a game where I made a Baguska, where I didn't have hand traps, and my opponent blew his entire hand into making Borolo Dragon, and he took my Baguska. Then I made Borolo, taking his Borolo, taking my Baguska back.
Sounds pretty broken.
This card's effect to decrease attack cannot be countered by Decode Talker, which is relevant when Decode Talker is at 33, so it goes down to 28. It's just a very good card that you should play.
One Ghoster Dullahan. and Sylvan's Princess Sprite for our rank 1s. Main reason we play Dullahan is because he's like the only rank 1 that can detach when you're getting Droll and Lockbirded. The most important part of the rank 1s is that they detach the quick fix so you can summon it back, rather than like their actual effects. I mean, it's nice that Princess Sprite can just get you a spell or trap, which is why we play it, but the main reason you need the rank 1s is definitely that.
Princess Sprite allows you to see more of your spells and traps. Really your spells, you don't want to draw your traps. And milling any monster is good. If you mill a Spyral, you can either add it back or combo with it. If you mill a hand trap, you can add it back with Fireball. This card is generally great. Dullahan can be used in other ways to attack over monsters commonly played.
And our last two cards are 2 rank 4s, Abyss Dweller and Baguska. We decided to play Abyss Dweller because it's good against ABC, and it is pretty effective against Spyral because it stops Master Plan, Quick Fix's Grave Effect, Drone's Grave Effect, Rescue's Grave Effect. So it is very good in that regard, and we were citing the Artifact engine, so if you draw Sanctum, then that would be clashing if we were to summon Baguska, because Baguska would negate our Scythe. So having Dweller and Scythe would just be the strongest for us.
Dweller is also relevant against other road matchups such as Paler, which I did play against this weekend. Baguska, I believe, is a common staple. Everyone should know why it's good.
Onto the side deck, we played 1 copy of Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. The reason we played 1 is because you never want to draw multiples. Once you resolve it, you want to be done with it. So it's like, if we draw it, cool, we're going to resolve it, and we see no drawbacks for the later game because we won't be drawing other copies, and if we don't draw it, it's also okay.
Reaper is a card that I wish I didn't play, but I did not draw it this weekend either. So I guess it was alright, but I would have played another card instead of it. It's not very good.
We play the Artifact engine of 3 Sanctum, Lancia, and Scythe. I unfortunately did not draw Sanctum a single time this weekend. I don't know why that happened, but in the situations where I could have drawn it, I knew it would automatically win me the game. I drew Scythe and Lancia once each. The time I drew Scythe, my opponent popped it with Super Agent, so that was pretty good. And the time I drew Lancia, I managed to drop it from my hand and prevent my opponent from summoning Spiral Sleeper, which won me the game.
Lancia, I drew it once in top 8, and it was against my opponent's evenly matched, and it won me that game. Every time I had Sanctum, it resolved. If it didn't, my opponent popped it. These cards were great all weekend.
Best side deck cards?
Yes.
3 Twin Twister. This is definitely the best removal in the deck. Due to cards like Big Red, it can also help actually further your plays because it can unbrick your hands. It clears the back row you need to destroy from your opponent. It can preemptively get rid of the resorts. You can start targeting the Spyral monsters with effects immediately.
This card is generic removal, mainly for other decks. You can also use it in the mirror to clear the set rotation lock, as well as get quick fixes into the grave so you can utilize them.
1 Dark Hole. We were maining the Regeki. We decided to side the Dark Hole in for when we go second. It kills Baguska. It has the same effect as Regeki against the general Spyral boards going first, which is pretty effective.
Dark Hole would be the same as Regeki really in most situations.
Then we have 3-dimensional barrier. This card just kills Pendulum, and it did what it did for the Pendulum matchups I did play against. I also played against a very interesting anti-meta Invoke deck in Swiss, where he was just playing a bunch of hand traps and the Invoked engine, and just trying to beat me down with the Invoked fusion monsters. I managed to use my barriers to put all his invocations in the grave, and he couldn't run over my Super Agent.
In top 32, I played against Deception's Invoke deck, which made a lot of hand traps. In game 2, I sided in the barriers and I drew them going first. He made me go first. He did not know I played barrier, and as soon as he activated his invocation, I was able to flip barrier and take the game.
Last, we have 2 Unending Nightmare. This card just destroys Magician. I played against Magician in my round 11 match, which decided whether I were to top this event or not, and it turned my opponent's 4-card hand into a 0-card hand, so that was pretty good.
This card is essentially a 1-card win against Magicians, as long as they don't have Cosmic Cyclone or another out to it.
All right. So, any final closing comments you want to make about the format, the event, anything at all?
One thing people are probably going to ask a lot about is why we didn't play evenly matched. The main reason is because I didn't think it was that great in theory, because your opponent is likely to have a hand trap 75 or 80% of the time, which means that your opponent actually isn't building a board more often than not, and like evenly matched is assuming the worst case scenario rather than playing around what's going to happen more often. We focused on the scenarios that'll happen most often, and that's what really brought us this far.
Right, and that same theory goes for set rotation. We decided not to play it. It wasn't correct for this event. So I think what made our list great is the fact that we didn't play a lot of those cards that other people decided to play. We went for consistency and the ability to do well with our engine, as well as minimize the number of hand trap needed in accordance with math.
All right, sounds good. Congratulations, guys. Did an amazing job this weekend. I'm sure everyone is super proud of you. Guys, that'll wrap up the deck profile here. Make sure you check back at a later date for our discussion video coming up. We'll go in more in depth on the format and the deck and some combos and stuff. Show you guys that. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and watch out for us at San Diego.
Yeah,
all right,
we will definitely be there.
We'll be winning that too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.